Yo, what is going on, you guys? So in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to make a really easy Sylenth Arp. So let's go over and hear it. So this is what we'll be making right here. So it's kind of like a classic sort of trancey sort of ARP, and it's really easy. So this is it right here. So it's actually just one saw oscillator in Sylenth. So if we look at part B, you see nothing going on here and nothing going on in this second oscillator. So it's kind of funny because with sound design you get really versatile differences in the way that like sometimes you use very little effects and a ton of like voices and oscillators to get your final result. And in this case it was just one oscillator, ton of effects. So it's literally drowned in a ton of effects. So let's just get this started. So let's go to menu, initialize, preset. There's the key command for it. I always forget it and I don't ever accidentally want to init a preset. So just initialize right there and let's get started. So first thing we're going to do on this oscillator, the one and only oscillator we're going to use, is set it to a saw, 4 voices, retrig on. You can add more voices if you want, since it's just one oscillator. It's not going to hurt your CPU or anything like that, or your computer. So next, everything else is kind of where it's at by default. So volume, phase, detune, stereo, pan, they're all kind of where they're at by default. So just make sure you leave retrig on. And now let's go to the amp envelope. So this is our amp envelope for part A. So the attack is where it's at by default at 0.05, decay and is all the way down, sustain is all the way up, and release is at 0.10. And so let's go into filter A. So we're just going to set a low pass, 24 dB slope. The drive we're going to bring up to 2.76. So that's just going to make it a little bit it's going to add a little bit more character and kind of make it a little bit dirtier. And we're going to bring up that reso to around 4.14 and the cutoff around 360.14 hertz. So again, the cutoff is around 360 hertz, reso at 4.14. And let's go to the filter control. So beneath that, we have the main filter control, which for some reason I changed in addition to this, since which is kind of weird because it's only this one filter. So anyways, I did that. So 68 hertz for the cutoff right here, reso at 3.14, no key track, warm drive is on. So again, the reso 3.19 and cutoff at 38 hertz. So if you're trying to follow along, I'll kind of try to repeat stuff for you so you don't get lost or have to pause the video as much. So let's go to the mod envelope 1. So mod envelope 1 is going to just be, we're just going to throw a cutoff A in there. So we're just going to do that classic cutoff modulation right here. So we're going to bring the cutoff A, bring the amount for that at negative 6.57, and the attack for that will be 5.57, and everything else is just all the way down. Now we're also going to use mod envelope 2. And we're going to bring the distortion amount right here, so the one all the way at the end. And we're going to set that amount to 6.67. Attack will be all the way down. Sustain and release will be all the way down. So the only thing that's happening here is just a slight amount of decay, so that's going to be at 0.4. And you'll see what that does later on when we're at distortion. And then there's this little trick I kind of like to do a lot, where I grab a LFO, and I'll bring in a little the pitch controls. So like if you're in other synths, it might be all pitches, or in Sylenth it's going to be pitch A and B. So I like to route the pitch to an LFO and bring that rate up on the LFO all the way up, and just kind of play around the gain to kind of balance it out. And what that does is it's going to move our pitch. See, we're not assigning a lot of pitch to this, so the amount for this is actually 0.29. So it's just the littlest amount of pitch. And what that's going to do is this is going to move, the LFO is going to move it so fast that it's going to create like a sort of grittiness. So if I A and B this for you, so let's just play it and then I'll turn it off. Might be hard to notice, but let's drop it back in. So maybe if I bring it up, you'll be able to get a good idea of what it does. You should just try it on a lot of stuff and you'll start to notice what it does, but let me bring it up. So it might be harder to notice here because of the delays and stuff, but I assure you, it makes things grittier. And especially when you're doing heavy stuff, it's really great. I actually think I have maybe a... Oh no, I was thinking of a patch I made earlier in the Anna, that I did this kind of trick to it, and it was just really fantastic. It changed the whole sound. And it was just slight amounts like this, just a little bit, you know? So anyways, let's get off that and let's go to the ARP. Since this is an ARP, we need to have the ARP on. So we're just going to turn that on. Mode up and down. I like modes up, up and down 2, and step and chord. Those are the ones I like to use and I use the most. And we're going to set the time to 1/16, and the gate will be at 91%. So the reason why I like 1/16 is just because if you're playing anything between like 3 notes or 4 notes or 5 notes at a time, it just sounds really cool. So, you know, this is a typical 3-note thing I might play, so why don't I hear it? My MIDI keyboard must be crapped out. Sometimes it does that. Anyways, I was going to play something so nice, but if we look at the MIDI here, we can see that, you know, just playing 3 notes is really nice, and let's see if I can see everything at once. So the one thing I will recommend when you're using ARPs is to kind of have a nice low bass like note, and then maybe have 3 or 4 higher notes than that. So in this case, I just have 2 higher notes and 1 lower note. So this is around octave 1, and these are around octave 3. So it just gives you a good idea of what I'm playing here, and if my MIDI keyboard would work. Let me see if I can get it to work. There we go. So just something like that, and if, you know, if we played something with like more notes, so let's say something like this. And so that was like 4 notes, and 5 would be something maybe like this. Let's see if I could figure something out really quick off the top of my head. So yeah, just give me an idea of kind of the sort of things you could play with this. So let's go distortion now. So we're gonna bring the overdrive on, and we're gonna set the amount to 0.9, so a really low amount, because again we're gonna use this mod 2 to modulate that, and then we're gonna bring the dry wet up all the way. So let's go to the next thing, the phaser. So oh, and by the way, why I'm doing this modulation is because I don't want to be too harsh with the distortion, but I do want it to come in eventually. So by doing that, it kind of eases into a nice distortion, so it's not too much. And then with the phaser, we're just going to set this to 50% for dry wet. Center frequency, spread, and the offset are all going to be straight down the middle, kind of where they are by default, and width will be up all the way. The LFO rate will be 2/1, and gain will be at 3, and feedback at 30%. So it's up to you if you want to have phaser. It's kind of it's not something it's not like a noticeable effect. It's really just kind of there to add a little bit more of my taste to it. So, you know, if I A/B it, it might be hard to tell that it's there. So if I turn it off, turn it on, I kind of like it. I think I like what it does, and I like especially that it's not like a obvious thing that was there. And the chorus is kind of the same thing. You really don't have to do this unless you want to. I like chorus because it makes things wider, and I like what it does in terms of how it detunes. So I like it. So 57% for the dry wet there, depth at 44%, rate at 0.16 hertz, delay at 8.8 milliseconds, feedback and width are kind of where they are by default, I believe. So feedback is all the way down, width is all the way up. No EQ, I'll do that probably later. Sometimes I just don't like using the EQ inside of Sylenth. And delay here is actually a big part of this. So if you're going to copy anything, you know, the ARP settings and the delay are the 2 important ones. Everything else is kind of just about taste. So the delay here is actually we're gonna drown the ARP in it so that it creates more motion. So if we take it out, add it in. You get an idea of like it just adds more motion to it. So the left side will be 1/8D. The right side delay will be the same. You can add the low cut if you want, so that way your low end isn't too messy, but you should probably be high passing stuff like this anyways, where the low end isn't a big part of the sound, so that way it keeps your low end cleaner overall. And smear will be all the way down. Spread, feedback, and width are just straight down the middle. And of course, like I said, we're going to soak this, so it's going to be pretty high up on the dry wet, 58%. And now we'll go to the reverb, so we just need a little bit of reverb to put in a space. So 52% for the dry wet here. Everything else seems to be default settings, so pre-delay is straight down the middle. Size is at 7.5. Width up all the way, damp all the way down. And then I just turned on the compressor, so that's all I did there. So that's really everything in here, really simple to do. And so I'll be doing videos all week long, you guys. And so let me know what you guys want to see. And of course, lates.